Welcome back. The time has come. I am back to share with you all of the tips and tricks that I learned firsthand from our rafting experience heading down the Grand Canyon with Western River Expeditions. Stay tuned for things that you won't hear anywhere else. We've learned so much since going on our journey whitewater rafting the Grand Canyon. There are so many things that we did wrong that we want to share with you so that you'll do right to have even better experiences when you choose to take this journey yourself, because it is really a bucket list experience. Our first category is clothing and what we wear and how we handle that. Now, if you go back to my packing video, you'll see that one of the things that they suggest that you bring are waterproof pants. So, did I do that? No, I didn't do that. And that was dumb. It sounds like something that's just gonna wear you down, that maybe you'll wear, maybe you won't. But here's the deal, no matter how hot it is outside, that river water, somewhere in the 50s in Fahrenheit, maybe 55, 57, it's pretty consistent most of the year in terms of that temperature range. So there are certain spots on the boat, about half of the spots, probably the front 9 spots where you might be sitting on that raft, where you will get drenched pretty consistently. And even if it's a very, very hot day, it will take you a while to dry off and you will be shivering until that time comes. So I do highly suggest waterproof pants, and that was sort of a universal comment from the people I polled. The next thing is neoprene socks. Yes, we brought neoprene socks, but did we use them? Sometimes we used them, sometimes we didn't. If I were to do it again, I would wear neoprene socks for the entire amount of time that I am on the raft. Your feet do get cold, but it is not just the chill of the water that you want to protect them from. It is the sun. And even if you wear great shoes, you have great water resistant shoes or water shoes themselves, and I chose Keens, which I think in hindsight was a great choice, you will have the sun beating down. There are places where those types of sandals are open and your skin is exposed. The neoprene socks will not only help to protect your feet from the water, but it will also help to protect your feet from a lot of the sunburns that are sort of inevitable if you don't have some sort of sock on your feet. The next thing that I decided I wouldn't bring, I thought, I don't need this. Why would anybody need this? I don't understand it. Is a sarong. Yes, bring a sarong. If there is a number one item in the clothing section that I wish that I had brought, it would be a sarong. Now, a sarong is just a very, very thin material that is almost like a blanket that you wrap around. A lot of women will use them as cover-ups. You can buy them at all the tourist locations. But the sarong can be used for so many purposes on a trip like this. If you go during the hottest time of the year, you can dip it in water, throw it over your shoulders or your skin, and cool off while you're sitting on the raft and the sun is beating down on you. The purpose for which I most needed that sarong was to throw over my legs or my shoulders to protect them from the sun. We'll talk more about the sun and sunscreens and sun protection later, but the sarong will be a key portion of your toolkit to protect your skin from the sun. Please consider bringing that sarong. It takes up very little space and weight, so there is no reason to leave it at home. I have a feeling you'll use it. The next thing that was suggested is quick dry clothing. Now, I chose to bring shorts that were like swimsuit style shorts, and they were not quick dry. They were not heavy cotton shorts that took a long time to dry, but I could have definitely found a material that would have dried much more quickly. When they suggest quick dry clothing, it is very, very important that you abide by that suggestion, because you will go from very, very hot to very, very cold. And that extreme cold feeling is going to be due to your clothing's retention of water on your body after you get splashed from that 55-ish degree river water. So quick, dry clothing is very important. I did like having the shorts. If I were to do it again, I would choose to bring very quick drying shorts on my rafting adventure. Two other tips are really important when you're thinking about your packing. One is I probably would have only brought 2 outfits with me. What I was going to wear the first day on the raft, and maybe one alternative that I could wear the next day, or if something happened to the first outfit. And then what I would do differently that I did not choose to do on our trip would be to hang dry the wet clothes overnight every night. Maybe even rinse them and then hang them to dry. If you go back and watch my rafting video, my preparation video, you'll see that I was like, I'm not gonna bring any clothing line and clothing pins. There's no way I'm gonna hang it to dry overnight. That was dumb. They recommend that for a reason, and I strongly suggest you do it, especially if you're going on a longer trip. It will be very, very helpful. It'll be less weight for you to lug around in terms of packing up the dry clothes. You won't have to put wet clothes in grocery bags and stick them inside next to your drier clothes. It will just help your entire experience if you can get those clothes dry overnight. And again, just having 2 outfits to rotate between if you need it, that will be plenty. You will be so filthy that rinsing everything in river water is not going to make much of a difference. And eventually your clean clothes will no longer be clean, and you will just be rotating in through your river washed clothing and enjoying it. Our next section is the personal care items. Let's see how much I messed up when it comes to that. A lot. Spoiler alert. Let's talk about the sun, okay? We used a spray sunscreen. I got the spray sunscreens that were the chemical style sunscreen that come in the travel size. I think they were SPF 30. However, I reapplied them very frequently. It didn't matter. I don't know if they worked at all. I don't know if there would have been any difference between having that and not having that, but I can guarantee you that a chemical-based 30 SPF sunscreen is going to do you no good on this trip. My first suggestion would be to use a physical sunscreen. I used a physical sunscreen that's a zinc-based sunscreen, that white stuff. I use that on my face, as I do every day, basically at home as well, and my face was well protected. That was the only part of my body that was well protected from the sun. You could try like an SPF 100 spray chemical sunscreen if you want, but a better alternative is to use other physical protection. There were people that were on our raft that had done this adventure before, and they were decked out head to toe, long sleeve, long pants. Their shoes were closed-toe shoes. Everything was protected, their skin all over, because they knew that that clothing was going to provide them the best protection from the sun, and they were not believers in sunscreen to begin with. They walked away unscathed and unburned, and we were crispy little critters when we left that trip. So, SPF 30, not worth the money. Also, you are down there at the very bottom of the canyon. It is dry. It is different than going to the Grand Canyon and hanging out for 2-3 days. When you are down there and that river water is constantly washing the oils off of your skin, and then the sun is beating down and burning you, this combination creates a dryness in your skin that is unlike anything I've probably ever experienced in my life. They suggest in the packing list that you bring lotion for your body. Bring the lotion. Heed that advice. It took us over a month after getting home for our skin to start feeling normal again. We live in Central Texas, so sometimes it can feel dry, sometimes it can feel humid. Perhaps it's more in the middle, but we travel frequently to drier areas, and we are not lotion wearers at all. Listen to the packing list. bring lotion. Additionally, if you have long hair, wear your hair in braids the entire time. If you have little girls, if you are tender-headed, any of that, if it is possible to braid your hair, leave it in the braids and don't mess with it. Your hair will dry out. It will become so brittle and crispy that if you take your hair down, if you try to wash it, brushing through it again, your hair may just chip off as if it is the old burnt crust on something. It becomes very, very dry. So please wear your hair in braids. Please do not think that you're going to be brushing your children's hair every day. It will create a majorly painful situation for them. So the hair care should be braids, one and done, come down that way, never undo them. If they come undone, rebraid them real fast. Don't even try to mess with them. In fact, letting the oils from your hair build up, be it 3 days if you're on a 3-day trip, or if you're on a 7-day trip, letting that oil, whatever your body can produce down there in that arid climate, build up on your head. Nobody's going to smell you. Everybody is going to be equally smelly, and it will actually do your hair well to not be washed and stripped of those oils while you're at the bottom of the canyon. Braid the hair, don't wash it. The other 2 personal care items I just want to throw out there are tissue. Make sure that you have any tissue for your nose available to you while you're on the raft, and also, of course, while you're at camp. There are a lot of different allergens down there that you may not be used to, so you could get runny noses. I think that we had a lot of like runny noses going on as well while we were down there, just because of allergies, things we're not so used to. So have some tissues handy. And finally, you need to stay hydrated. In order to do that, I strongly suggest electrolyte tablets. I got dehydrated the very first day. I did have electrolyte tablets. I think I ended up taking some, but I already had gotten to the point of dehydration. So take your electrolyte tablets and maybe just include them in the morning. There are all sorts of different options out there. I like the noon tablets. My husband likes the liquid IV. Oh, and here's the big story on the personal care items. The one thing that almost took me out, and did take me out for a number of hours that I could have been enjoying my trip, there was nowhere on the packing list that it was suggested to bring moisturizing eye drops. I don't have a lot of dry eye issues. I get dry eye about once a month and have to use some moisturizing eye drops. It didn't occur to me to take it on this trip, so I did not have any of that with me. However, between the sand, that fine sand from the bottom that will get in your eyes without you even noticing, and the water and the arid climate, my eyes got so painfully dry by 3 or 4 o'clock that I could barely keep them open. And by the 3rd day of our trip, being down at the bottom of the canyon, I had to shut them completely anytime I was on the boat and we were going into the wind. Mind you, I wore sunglasses the entire time, so this is even with something physically keeping my eyes protected from oncoming wind, my eyes still dried out. Each evening by 4 or 5 o'clock, I was lying down with cold, wet compresses over my eyes, and I was basically blinded for the rest of the evening. If you have ever suffered from dry eye, or if you know anybody that has, that will be traveling with you, or if you are just trying to pack a really thorough emergency kit or personal care item kit, I highly suggest that you pack some moisturizing eye drops. If you wear contacts, anything. If you have a thyroid issue that can lead to dry eye occasionally, bring the moisturizing eye drops. Please do not be caught at the bottom of that canyon without them. I never will go through that again. I will be prepared moving forward. And I am so grateful that I did a 3-day trip without them instead of embarking on a 6-day trip not having moisturizing eye drops. I don't know how I could have enjoyed that trip if it were any longer without having that essential with me. The next thing I want to share with you is how to sleep better. First of all, bring a pillow. I think they say it's optional. No. Bring a pillow. You're going to be way more comfortable. Remember, I actually chose a great pillow to bring, and it was in my packing video. I have one of those neck curve pillows that I cut in half. You can roll it up, throw it in a dry bag. I took that with me. The pillow was so helpful in making sure I got a great night's sleep. The other thing that somebody brought, not in our party, but another one of the families, was a bed pad. Yes, you will be sleeping on cots. I really didn't have an issue with that, but for some people that like to sleep on something very soft, bring the bed pad, whether it is just like an inflatable mattress or something that they can roll up relatively tightly. Bring that with you to ensure that you get a great night's sleep. You're not backpacking. You don't have to carry this on your back. If it's an extra 4 pounds of weight, but it'll make a big difference to you, invest in making that big difference to you. This is a once in a lifetime trip for many people. It's a huge investment. Make sure you're comfortable. Bring earplugs. Okay, so I don't wake up so much to snoring around me, maybe not because I contribute to it, but there are a lot of people that will struggle to sleep if there is snoring going on around them. And let me just tell you that camping with so many people, maybe 30, 40 people in a pretty close proximity, there will be a chorus of snoring. So bring earplugs if that is something that might bother you. The other thing about sleeping, and this is really like a top tip, okay? You want to prepare your sleeping area. When you go to sleep at night, for the most part, unless you're there in a very cold season, you will go to sleep when it is hot. And then within a few hours, that temperature may drop 30 degrees, okay? You want to be prepared with everything that you need to adjust your body to that change in temperature over the first few hours of sleeping. So if you go to sleep at 9, and then by 1 a.m., you may wake up and be suddenly cold. We got very, very, very cold in the middle of the night, all of us on this trip. What we needed was to have something within arm's reach to help make us comfortable. So by the second night, what I knew to do was to have within arm's reach, not just in a bag, not just at the bottom of the bag, but where I could reach out my hand and I knew exactly where to set it to grab what I needed. I needed a headlamp next to me. I needed my heat holder socks, or whatever socks you choose to bring that will keep your feet very, very warm. And then I also used my hot hands, the little, you can rip it open and they will become warm, and I threw those at the bottom of my sleeping bag on night 2. Odds and ends. Here are a couple things you want to be attentive to. D-rings or carabiners, you may want to bring extra. We lost a number of them, and if we were on this trip for any longer than 3 days, that may have become an issue. The next thing that you are going to want to have with you is sunglass cleaner. Your sunglasses, which you absolutely must wear, are going to get sprays of water and they're going to get sand all over them. You are actually going to need something other than just a silk wipe. You're going to need something that has some sort of rubbing alcohol on it, like a full wipe that is disposable, really, is going to be what's best for you to clean your sunglasses at least once a day. And you may want to even have one handy with you while you're on the raft, because on break, when you stop for lunch or something, if you've gotten a huge spray of water and that water started to dry, that may be an optimal time to clean them in the middle of the day so you can see really well, because the scene is worth the effort. Another thing that you're going to want to have with you are extra grocery bags. Everything that you have and touch and wear is going to get gross, and you are going to want to put things away into grocery bags and separate some of that stuff. You are going to want to keep things clean as long as you can, which is probably ultimately not that long, but you're sure going to want to try. So bring extra little plastic grocery bags where you can section off your items. Something gets dropped in the sand, we're just going to slip that into an extra grocery bag, wrap it up, and stick it back into our bag. The last little item that I suggest that you bring are a deck of cards. During the evening, after everybody eats and enjoys everybody's company, you may have time to go back and enjoy another hour or so of sunlight. So bring an extra deck of cards so that you can play a game, whether it's crazy eights with the littles or spades with everybody else. A deck of cards can be a great way that is sort of space saving, but also allows a lot of people to enjoy a game together. And that's why you're there, right? To enjoy the people around you. Now, I have 3 final tips that are very, very important that we did not hear about ahead of time. Number 1, when you go to the hotel and you want to leave some bags at the hotel, they will hold them for you. The rafting company does tell you this. However, what I did not realize was that there was a charge for each bag that you check to have held at the hotel. I think it was $10 a bag. Make sure that you bring a very large bag that you can put all of your family's excess items into, and then just have one bag for that $10 fee to give to the hotel to hang on to until you're ready to return from your trip and get your bag back. In our case, we each had our own bag that we checked. So instead of it being a $10 fee for checking a bag with the hotel, we had $40 for checking the bag. And I think that may have been per night that we were gone. The other thing that you need to be aware of is how many people will be on your raft. Now, each raft has a capacity to seat 18 people. 18 people will mean that there is no available seat on the raft for you to get up and move around. Our rafts actually had about 14 people each when we went. 14 was fantastic. Having an extra 4 open seats allowed for people to maybe lie down, to scoot around, to get up, to move around, to go and chat with different people, and to get comfortable if one area ended up being a little bit uncomfortable and you'd need to shift the way you were sitting or the direction you were facing to protect you from the sun or the water or whatever it was. Having extra ability to move by having fewer total people on the raft is very, very helpful. So I suggest that you ask the rafting guides ahead of time how many people they have booked on the trip and how many people might be on your raft. And the idea is to hopefully ensure that your raft that may have a capacity of 18 does not actually have 18 people on it, but maybe 14 would be a great number. The last tip I have came from one of my kids, and I thought that this was so great and so important and the best way to wrap up our series on rafting the Grand Canyon. And that tip is to sit in the front at least once. In the front of the raft, there are 9 seats, 3, 3, and 3. In those seats, you have to straddle like you're straddling a raft, or really like you're riding like a rodeo bull or one of those mechanical bulls. That's sort of how you have to sit up there. When you're doing that, it may not be super comfortable, especially for the adults to sit like that for long periods of time, but you're on the rafting trip to enjoy the rapids, to feel the intensity of these most famous rapids almost in the world. So lean into that, enjoy that, make sure that you are up at the very front where you will get the most intense rafting experience, intense rapid experience, that experience that you are looking for and that you signed up to go rafting to enjoy. So sit up in the front, and then you can walk away knowing that you have had the best rafting experience of the Grand Canyon that your money could buy, and that epic bucket list dream has come true and you have lived it up to your full capacity. So go on this trip, enjoy it. I'd start with the 3-day, see what adjustments you need to make so that you can then proceed to the 6 or 7-day. You're not going to be comfortable all the time, but you're going to walk away thinking, oh my gosh, I just rafted the Grand Canyon. I can't believe I did that. I'll remember that for the rest of my life. It was a trip of a lifetime, and you'll be so grateful, as I am too. I hope this series was really helpful for you in determining how to approach a trip for rafting the Grand Canyon and how to prepare for that trip and ultimately how to enjoy that trip. So any questions down below, I will definitely be happy to answer and engage. And like and subscribe. I hope I can bring you more great information about some of our national park bucket list experiences. Thanks for joining.